Okay, I'd like to call this planning board subcommittee meeting of August 14th, 2025 to order. We have with us today Greg Catamatore, who is our planning director. I'm Jane Remsen, the chair of this subcommittee and vice chair of the planning board. We also have David Rosen and Sean Henry who are on our subcommittee. So first order of business is to discuss section 5.11 inclusionary housing requirements zoning ordinance updates.
Suzanne had indicated that she would be able to attend. I haven't seen her since I got to the building, but I did review what we had kind of discussed from the last meeting to basically incorporate and also the changes that we had discussed at the last meeting. So I will share my screen again, and also I'll be sharing a draft that you had provided some comments, because it is this interesting thing. You're going in to revise a document for a specific purpose. When we identified several areas that there were operational issues, and then there was also kind of the initial impetus for this discussion was, again, Councilor Benson had asked about threshold and whether that was something to consider in terms of lowering the threshold for the applicability of the ordinance. And so sometimes you ignore what was the text of the ordinance and focus on the area that we're proposing to change. And right out of the gate, Jane had pointed out it's something that throughout the document, since we adopted this ordinance, the HCD, Department of Housing and Community Development, is now the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. So we can do a wholesale for that. I think that makes a ton of sense to keep that current. So I think there's about 5 reference places, and I do find and replace on that. Same typo. Is that? Oh, actually, no, because we capitalized it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's another DHCD. Jane had a comment that there are a couple of definitions that are not referred to specifically in the ordinance. I think my recollection is when we were drafting this with the assistance of Barrett, we talked about anybody that's going to be in the space of having to create a unit will have to become familiar with some of these terms. And I think that's why some of them were included. There is in the purpose that it is to maintain housing that's eligible for inclusion. Chapter 40B, subsidized housing inventory. The means of getting there is creating a local action unit. So I think that's why there was some reference to that, even though there's nowhere else in the document it says, and then you shall file a local action unit application with now HLC rather than DHCD. So far, page 1, the addition of application for residential or mixed use development is something that Rocco and Suzanne had developed to help clarify what we're actually talking about. I think everybody's comfortable with that definition. Open question on whether we include some of these definitions that aren't specifically utilized in the operation of the ordinance.
I think the local action unit was really the only one.
So we can come back to that placeholder there. And then again, that does have a DHC reference, and we'll do that throughout. Proposed development site. We did include the clause that says including parcels directly opposite private way, because that would be a subdivision.
Right, but I thought it should also include public way. I don't know why that was taken out.
I think Suzanne and I were talking about that this morning and couldn't really come up with an instance where there's a certain amount of contiguousness of a development site. I mean, because if you just say, well, directly opposite a private way, I just don't know if how that would play out.
All right, so I don't think that's what that means. I think what it's intended to mean is parcels across the street from each other,
Yep,
but under common ownership.
yep,
It doesn't mean opposite a private way, because that makes no sense. It means opposite each other over
Yeah.
a private way.
yeah. So, I mean, a subdivision would be ownership
Both
on either
sides,
side.
right?
Yeah,
So why wouldn't that apply to public streets? And also, we just need to fix that clause to make it read the way we're speaking.
mhm. Directly opposite of private, so and the thing that was missing was public or private.
No, there's two things missing. The first thing that's missing, parcels opposite each other over a private way. Or,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
but there's no such
Yeah.
thing as a piece of land opposite a road,
Yeah, yeah. So, Yeah.
right?
yes, yes. Good
Opposite
point,
each
good
other.
point. I'm wondering if we should go back, again, if it's, we need one more blessing from Rocco and Suzanne on this, because I'm wondering if along the way, because I didn't develop this language.
Yeah, no, I know.
Whether maybe there was something more to it that got reshaped once again, because like
Okay.
you're saying, I don't think we brought that up the last time.
That's what I was trying to bring up. And
Okay.
then Beverly jumped in with her.
Yeah, we got
whole
into a little
analysis
bit
of
different thing
her-
about what
yeah.
a public way to private way was, so
Right.
you were saying including
I'm
parcels.
just talking about common ownership across the street from each other.
Yep. Parcels,
I would agree.
And maybe it doesn't even need to say private way, maybe it just needs to say across the street from
Right.
each other. Because the minute you put in a subdivision road, that's the
directly.
definition of,
Maybe the opposite is not the right word. What if it were directly across
a,
one another?
yeah, directly across the street, any street.
Mhm.
Any way in
Ah.
use.
A public or private way.
Okay, sure.
Doesn't it also need to say one or more contiguous parcels of land, including parcels fronting on public or private ways?
Parcels,
With frontage.
Or with frontage?
well, how about that? How about that? Does that clarify it? Including parcels directly across one another fronting on a public.
That makes sense. Yeah. Even though then you could also get into like,
Do we have-
is 5 feet, what if they're like. this?
Are there development parcels that actually do not front on the private way? Interior parcels,
They all have to have. It's like the one thing that they need to have. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll review that back with Suzanne. I think we were clear on all of this in terms of applicability. And we took out any reference to the 36 months because we're just saying you can't segment project.
So wait, and I added, after proposed development site located, I added any residential district, including not limited to, just on the theory that what if someday we make a new district, give it another name and it's not in there.
Yep.
Wait,
Um,
what's wrong? We'll go back up. Why does that not like that sentence?
It's probably gonna say. Passive voice,
Oh,
which word
passive
tells
voice
me
is good.
every day of the week. So we've changed the basic requirement down to 4 from 6. Simple change in 5, 11, 4, 1.
So wait, and I also, I just messed with the grammar here. So that it says the applicant shall provide one affordable unit by creating an affordable unit for. Okay. We need to, well,
Yep. So we went back and forth on this. I was suggesting that say the applicant shall provide an affordable unit on site or paying an in lieu fee to make it even simpler.
no,
And I think Suzanne was doing this on screen while we were talking back and
Okay,
forth. And I
okay.
think- So, I mean, if that carries it, let's see, shall provide, so that's, I think that could do it as well. So
Shall
if this was
provide.
removed and there was just a
yeah,
colon.
yeah,
And then
sure.
it said back to.
And affordable
just
unit,
an affordable-
but then it's gotta say, or a fee in lieu.
Or paying a fee in lieu.
No, you can't use pay. There's, you're talking about two nouns. A unit or a fee.
Shall provide. A fee.
You,
Okay.
if you wanna use
Yeah,
paying,
no, no,
then you
that-
have to use
that's fine.
creating.
I like that better way, like paying this.
Yeah.
Okay,
Payment of the fee.
a payment,
Yeah, payment as a fee.
a payment of a
Of
fee
fee
in
in
lieu.
lieu, yes.
Okay, I like that. Whoops.
What happens if?
What just
someone-
happens? Payment. Fee. Okay. Like that. Then, DHCD. So this is what's been slightly reworked. With your suggestion, Jane.
Yeah, I started typing in 3 year, 3 year, 3 year, and then
Yeah.
I made a table.
Yeah, so what I did was I, again, we've had a little bit of trouble with some of the paragraphs that we just discussed in terms of very clearly applying it. We don't want to mince terms. We want to make sure that the applicant knows exactly what we're saying. So what I had originally done was taken the 3 year median and called that median sale price.
Mm-hmm,
And then Suzanne and I talked about it a little bit before because we wanted to make sure also, there's the amendment that happened after a project on Main Street. We got to this resulting in because it wasn't just a 6 unit project, brand new 6 unit project. It was if you were converting from
Yeah.
a 2 to a 6 or a
Right.
1 to a 6, whatever it might be.
right,
So this resulting in is what's in proposed development sites. It
Right.
Makes it clear. And so it's even further resulting in,
right,
so that you are on that scale depending upon what the total count is, including what was existing. I'm totally fine with, we've instituted the schedule of a 9 unit, although there's a E there. Because it was a project before, 9 unit, 8 unit, 7 unit, resulting in, and the 3 year median sale price is fine by me.
okay, well, I made a table, did the table make it?
Oh, then you also put in a table, yes.
Well, I wasn't gonna do also, I was suggesting instead, but I don't care, it just was. Seemed more
yeah,
expedient
it's
because,
just a lot of words, versus having a table, could be just cleaner. I mean, that's what we did a few meetings ago, and it kind of looks, it's real easy, you go to the table and you go 9 and 9 versus having a lot of verbiage. So,
I vote for the table, but I don't really care.
okay. I'll leave that one to before we discuss this at the full planning board. I'll just run it by Suzanne.
Okay, and if you're gonna keep the one and above, can you add 3 year in front of after 20%? And after 10%?
Can I add what? I'm sorry.
And where it says 5 unit, 20% of the 3 year median sale price, can you add
Oh, okay. I
3
see
year,
what you're saying.
3 year, 3 year?
You're editing your edit.
Well, because I gave up, I was typing and I'm like, oh, this is stupid, I'm gonna make a table.
What if
Okay.
they're 10 units?
So 10
Your
units,
10 units, you
that's-
go into the next discussion. which
right, so
is-
that's why so this section could actually since it only applies to 4 to 9, without making people's head explodes, it could actually go in the previous section where you talk about 4 to 9 units. Because because right now it says under, yeah, right under B here, it
Yeah.
says, go to section 5.115, but we could just say, pay a fee in lieu, and here's the table.
Good.
But- Yeah, and that's why, but if you keep the 5.115, that's fine.
Yeah.
But that's why I put in for any proposed development site resulting in 4 to 9 units, because I figured people with 10 or more were gonna read, and they're gonna be like, oh, fuck, now I have to pay, excuse me. Oh, damn, oh, no.
Oh, shucks.
Oh, shucks, now I have to pay
Yeah,
a fee too, so I
Yeah.
don't know, I'm just trying to make it more clear.
Right, so on 10 units, it's gotta be on site.
on
Yes.
site for 10, yep,
Yeah.
yep, and then it could be 15.
Yep.
Or 10. DHCD. And that's it. So I'll rerun the first definition. Page up here.
Well, the public or private way business,
Public or private way business,
is the next one.
and then everything is fine there,
And then just-
and then just a matter of
whether it's
Table or not. table could be cleaner. It's a lot of words.
What's a lot of words, the table is?
I'm saying the listing out.
Oh,
Again, that's
yeah.
like, I had the table and I'm like, words. It was a little bit shorter
Also,
earlier, but
not to be nitpicky, but if you're gonna go 98765, it should be plural units.
yep,
I do like
Well-
your idea about moving that in the prior section.
yeah,
I mean-
why isn't it plural? That's interesting. I wasn't on screen at this time. What were you saying, Sean? Sorry.
Oh, I like Jane's idea about rather than having a separate section, just put the table up above in the prior section.
So we have to describe how it's calculated still. So we would probably take that one. That we basically take some of that, put it after this section.
I get why it's separate. It's because 5.11.4 is quote unquote basic requirements and paying a fee is not,
Yeah,
it's called out as a requirement, but how you pay the fee is not really
Right.
part of a basic requirement.
Yeah.
So,
we'll leave it alone.
yeah,
We'll just decide whether we're gonna do words or table.
total amount should be paid to city cluster in accordance with the schedule, section 5.118. Oh, right, okay. And then my only other comment about 5.115 was when you talk about the median of the qualified housing unit sale prices in Gloucester over 3 years, as determined by the Gloucester Assessor's Office. That kind of is a definition, so you could, you don't refer to it more than once, so maybe it doesn't
No,
need
and
to
it's
be
really a
like,
construct. It's not, we
Okay.
kind of made,
we're making it
yeah,
up as we go along.
yes,
Okay.
we came to that conclusion.
Yeah.
That's how we're gonna do it.
Yeah, perfect,
Good.
yeah,
So I'll do a find and replace on DHCD. Run those two things by Suzanne. And we'll have a.
we vote on it.
You want to move this to planning board?
Yeah.
Talk about it next week.
Yep.
Recommend with those changes, the draft. dated 8/14.
So I need a motion from somebody to recommend to the planning board that we consider this amendment to the section 5.11 inclusionary housing requirements as we amended it today for the draft dated August 14th, 2025.
So moved.
I'll second that.
We don't need to roll call.
Nope.
All in
All in
favor? Aye.
Aye.
0 opposed.
All right. Progress.
Yeah.
So I thought I made a little, it's very crude, but I think it's effective. Graphic, if we're gonna move into discussion of ADU.
Yes,
Um,
so the next item on our agenda is the accessory dwelling unit ordinance that we have on our books compared to the one that is state.
Yes. Because we did a good, quick job of pointing out some of the differences
Yep.
with the assistance. But I think this is a good kind of graphical way of looking at it. It is also to scale, so it can really give folks a sense of how the two differ.
Oops, erased my hand, sorry. Nice.
There we go. Is it catching up? There we go. So just a quick listing, and I try to get things to be kind of compared next to each other. The state's new ADU law and Code of Massachusetts regulations basically says in any district that allows a single family. So that's the only, it doesn't matter really necessarily what the use is on the site. Any district that allows a single family has to allow an ADU by right. Goes further that it only has to comply with the dimensional requirements for single family use in that district. So you can't say an ADU has to be, you can't be more restrictive, you can be more liberal, but you can't be more restrictive than that minimum requirement of it follows the principal dwelling requirements. Which also allows them to go 30 feet. But we have the same kind of limitation in terms of size, so it's very unlikely that somebody is going to build ADU to 30 feet when you're only working with 9 square feet space. We go further. We have more liberal setbacks, but we have height restrictions for all scenarios. So if you meet the principal setbacks, like the state, our limitations to 24 feet. If you meet our accessory setbacks by district, you're limited to 20 feet. So that's something where we very much differ from the state, and state says you have to follow the principle. We say you can actually treat it like what it is, an accessory structure, it's smaller. So that's going to be a big policy decision of, are we going to have a series of different options for ADUs, or do we move towards trying to come up with just one approach? And I think after a discussion here, couldn't happen today, and I think it's better for you guys to all kind of coalesce on what you think makes sense. I think it makes sense to bring a zoning board member or two in, because it would be interesting to see, as they're been applying what is, from the state's perspective, a much more liberal ordinance, what are they coming up against and how do they feel about it? Because I think we've heard a little bit of that of like, it's a little bit different where they are receiving a variance request because, here's the law. You don't meet the law, you come for a variance. When we created this ordinance, we created them as a permitting authority without really, there was a lot of support for it from a lot of corners, but they're now been handed, here are the standards, you guys apply it. So it'd be interesting to hear now that we have to revisit this in some way. And they're the ones that are saying, regardless if there's any difference, that, that's something that we can consider. And I'll show what that looks like graphically as well.
So I thought we weren't allowed, according to the state law, to make anything more restrictive than the state law.
Correct.
So we can't keep 24 and 20.
We
Anyway.
can't keep 24, but we can keep 20 and accessory setbacks. Because they only have.
Oh, they
have
had
to
it
follow
in
the
the,
principal setbacks.
oh,
We
okay.
allow,
Okay,
so that's where, like, anywhere we diverge from the allowance of the state.
Okay.
We can add additional
Okay.
conditions, controls. Yeah. So this one is one that the building inspector, for his sanity, the state chose to use gross floor area for the calculation of the size of the ADU, or 900 square feet, whichever is less. We used 50% of habitable space, which is more restrictive. Gross floor area basically just says how much habitable space takes out corridor, and it takes out things that are not, you know, it's a subtraction. So this will make it easier. At the end of the day, 900 square feet. That's the limitation. So I
Take out 50% of HS.
think we would just take out the HS and we would replace it with gross floor area.
Yeah.
So just to have one, if, again, this is if we're gonna keep separate options for using those accessory setbacks or otherwise. The state says all you have to do is file a principal. We have a provision in our accessory setbacks that say an accessory structure can't be any closer to the street than the principal structure. So that's something, again, no control over it in the state. If you're pursuing a protected ADU, as it's called, under the state law, it is something that we have. So that's another area to kind of grapple with a little bit.
So that crops up with accessory, not just dwellings, but
Yes,
accessory
when you had your
buildings.
discussion with the zoning board, they
Yes,
said we're
And that,
faced with
and that
this
drives
a
them
lot.
crazy,
Yeah.
that,
So there may be, and it may be just, okay, that, you know, for this, at least for this instance, and maybe that's something broader for accessory use, that's not an issue. State, you cannot require an occupancy requirement. You
yeah,
can't require that the homeowner or property owner lives in one of either
Yeah.
the ADU or the principal dwelling. Oh, I jumped over one. So
short-term
the state,
rental.
accessory in any single family district, it doesn't matter what the building is used for. It's two family, it's a multifamily,
Oh,
you can
right.
apply for an ADU. Ours was designed to be,
Just single.
just a single family. So that's another one where you may still, if you're gonna use the accessory, you could say it's only accessory to a single family, you know, like, so there's choices to be made in terms of how liberal you want the application of it, or allowance. We have an occupancy requirement. So again, if we had a separate means of, you know, it's all about what's the policy goal? What do you want to do here? If we continue to allow it in accessory or setbacks, you can apply it to those ADUs, but now you're going to be dealing with this person builds one way, they have none of these requirements. Somebody builds under a different avenue, they have all these requirements. So it's just, I'm just pointing it out. I'm not taking a position on it either way, but you know, again, I think the storyline of the development of the ADU ordinance
Mhm.
several years ago was
Mhm.
it's only going to be this, it's gonna create opportunities. We know it
Mhm.
has. We've had probably a couple dozen of them get built over the last few years or permitted otherwise. But it's different. Now it's anybody can own it and they can rent them both. And that, you know, that is something that strikes a chord. with
Except
a
no
lot of
short-term
folks.
rental,
No short-term rental, but still, you know,
still investment property instead of,
absentee ownership. But one would argue, well, you're creating, you know, you're still creating two rental units. And if it
Yep.
can't be short-term rental, then you're hoping that you're creating something that's a little bit more of a, you know, year-round rental stock. But again, it's just something that's different. No parking requirements in the state's approach.
well, the requirement that there is no parking. There, in other
Well,
words,
so it's interesting because it's all related to transit.
yeah, I get
Yeah,
that, but
and-
for us, that means we can't require a parking space.
Yes, so we have clarified, there is one area in Gloucester that we could require parking, and it's Northwest Gloucester.
Yeah,
So it's basically
It's
Ward
ridiculous.
5-2 up in the corner because Essex Avenue, Washington Street, Magnolia Avenue, Western Ave, Roger Street, all the way around the back is Cater route, and it has stops. And that network is considered a part of their definition of transit, and then it's a half a mile from that. So it makes this, what do they call it? Quite an octopus. But I mean, if you just buffer off of those roads, it covers half a mile off the center line of those roads. It covers most of the community of that. So basically, no, we can't require parking unless it's under our options as in the accessory setback. If there's anything that it doesn't comply with from the state that we would allow it by our local permitting, we can make these requirements. So again, it's like,
Can you just make that statement again?
if we just adopted the procedures that the state have outlined, require parking,
Right,
can't require any of those
yeah,
things. If there's anything that's more liberal,
okay,
which really is mostly related to the setback.
Okay.
If we allow somebody to use accessory setbacks, we
yeah,
have all the control. We can do whatever we want.
Huh.
We can keep that limitation at 24 or 20. We can require occupancy. We can do all those. If they're not being permitted as a protected ADU, as it's called.
I never
by
could
the state.
understand protected ADU,
Yeah,
okay,
so
now I get it.
It's like
So the protected ADU is any accessory dwelling unit within the setbacks of a single family.
it's any ADU that is developed under the state's requirements. If they meet all of the state's requirements that
Okay.
they've put in place, it's permitted that way. You don't have to go to a zoning board. You don't,
Okay.
you just go to the building inspector and say, I'm gonna do a 900 square foot. I'm
Right,
gonna meet all the setbacks.
Yeah.
So that's what's called a protected. area.
okay,
But then
so,
we can add on top of that?
We can have our own.
We can have
ADU
another
ordinance.
option, like if, R80,
Right.
let's just take that as an example, R80. Big setbacks. Somebody has an existing home that's,
that is a gatehouse.
either they want to reuse a structure that
Right.
was, meets the accessory setbacks, but doesn't, or maybe it doesn't even meet that, but if they own, the back 40, and there's an outbuilding back there, and it's right on the property line. And we want to say, there's an avenue to use that structure, rather than have to tear it down, move it, or whatever. Special permit. Under the special permit, you can have any of these requirements that you want. And I'll leave there. So the other things, we have parking requirements, we have design requirements that we cannot have under the states. We have the things about, there needs to be, a doorway, the doorway shouldn't necessarily be on the street side. It, if it's an addition, it should match the material, all that stuff. Straight out. You don't require it for a single family home, you can't require it for an ADU. And then
Add design requirements for single family home.
do it. And then we have this magic wand. We have the special permit for any dimensional relief needed that doesn't comply with our ordinance. The issue that is coming up is there are being arguments made or testimony for support for an ADU where it's starting to mix the two. So someone.
Starting to mix to what?
Mixing the two standards. So they're
Oh.
basically saying, well, if I meet the setbacks, I can go to 30 feet. So I'm
Yeah.
just asking to do 26 feet in the side yard,
Yeah.
in the accessory setback.
Mhm.
Or, well, I
Yeah.
can't really provide a parking space, and why should I? Because I wouldn't have to if I was 5 feet in that direction.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's getting a little bit, so that's the policy part of it of,
Can you see the AC room?
oh, you cold?
Can we turn down the fan and leave it
Uh,
on?
I don't know that there's a fan control. I'm comfortable.
Somebody was going through, build a protected ADU. They still could seek that relief from any relief they need from the ZBA,
The
right?
lowest bid.
And the ZBA can add conditions to that relief.
One more time.
So
If they violate anything, then they, they could potentially use our relief valve. They can go for a special permit if they don't comply with any of the requirements.
but they could,
But they wouldn't be a protected ADU, they would be a local ADU.
if we keep a separate local ADU,
Yes, we have to have, if we were to say, we're gonna repeal, we're not gonna give anybody any guidance, and we don't have to have an ordinance at all. They can go and look at the CMR and they can work with the building inspector. They either meet everything or they need a variance.
right? That's what I'm
And
saying.
that's where, again, the zoning board doesn't have to ever grant a variance. You know, we've created a facilitating ordinance that said we will look at the specifics of your application if it doesn't meet it, and it's a special permit, it's a consideration. It's not, no, you can't do it that way.
Right.
Show us some reason why we should do otherwise. Yeah, so but that's the problem is they're starting to mix the two. Like
Right.
I want to
They
be.
need clarity.
Yeah. So again, they also lose all of the parking occupancy and other things that, again, if everybody agrees that those should continue to be important, then we keep our ordinance the way it is, and somebody's got to struggle with which way am I filing? And the board has to be clear in understanding that just because the state's not requiring it for certain things, we have an ordinance in place and have to follow.
Yeah, but I was reading that the state was saying to us, for example, about the occupancy requirement, like you basically can't have something on your books that has an occupancy requirement.
For this use.
Right,
If you're allowing somebody to permit under these requirements, we cannot.
Under the.
But
state.
again, if we're allowing accessory setbacks and those types of, it's
I know.
only the instance where somebody says, I'm coming in under your ordinance and I'm gonna be inside the box, that we can't apply these things.
okay,
As soon as you're
okay.
outside the box, we can
Okay.
apply all.
Right, okay. I thought
Okay,
that's what you
let's
said
go to the
before.
visual.
So
Yeah.
basically you're saying, what you're suggesting is that we basically have the two ordinance, or people can come through the state process. And if they don't meet one of the requirements of the state, the policy decision basically would be that the ZBA says, no, we're not gonna give you relief for these requirements under the state, because we provided you the special permit process on our own ordinance.
Right.
In which case, come back and apply for a special permit
Right.
rather than the variance. We're
Right.
denying you a variance, but we provided you a
Yes.
special permit process.
Yeah, anybody that doesn't perfectly fit into the state's requirements can apply under our ordinance right now. And that would make a lot more sense. Yeah, for
I'm
somebody to
still
do-
Stuck.
All right, let's go through it.
Okay.
Here it is.
Yeah,
Here it is. So the frontage is at the bottom of the page. This is an R20 lot to scale that is a little bit over 20,000 square feet. You can't see this, the 1 by 1 squares that make this up, but that is to scale. That's a 10-foot setback. That's a 30-foot front, a 20-foot rear yard setback. Those are the dimensional requirements for a single family home. That's what the state applies. So you can do this. You can put an
Right.
ADU, that one I've made the house is about 1,000 square foot foundation, so it's a 2,000 square foot house, so we don't have to get into any calculation at all. You can be 900 square feet, that's 30 by 30. So the only difference with someone coming in for an as of right permit
It's a
to
cute-
Rob right now is they're over the height limitation. If they kept it to 24, they can go right to Rob and get a permit. They're at 30, they don't comply, they'd have to try to come to the zoning board in that instance. But that is what the state is saying. You have to follow the same setbacks for the main house or the principal
Mhm.
dwelling, can't even call it, or whatever that thing is, the
Mhm.
building on the site.
Mhm.
And the only other things that are a little bit different are if that house were slid back to the middle of the lot, they could put the ADU front corner as long as it meets the front yard setback, but not where the building line is of the street. Those are some nuances that we have.
Do you realize it's literally a cube, 900 square feet is 30 by 30 with the height of 30? That's a cube.
Well, so they might have a roof line. They can have a roof line, or they don't have to. They could literally
There's
build
a
a cube.
cube in Annisbrook now. I
Build a
mean,
cube.
you know,
But that would be, if you think about it, 30 by 30 is your 900 square feet.
I know,
So,
that's what I mean.
so they can't get to 30 feet unless they want this giant vaulted
Oh,
ceiling.
true.
They could, but they could.
Oh, so it's.
And that would be the thing where like,
Oh, sorry,
they
I thought
start
it
with
was,
that and then they, maybe
I
later.
thought it
they
was
put in a-
footprint.
They put in a loft.
Wait, it's not footprint? It's floor area?
It's floor area, but 30 by 30 is,
No, I know that. I know
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
I thought it was footprint.
no. It's floor
Floor
area,
area.
square feet of living space.
Okay,
So again, it's not that.
yeah,
I mean, it's not small. I mean, it's
Yeah.
garage size.
right, but
a
it's
little bit bigger than
self-limiting in
garage.
that, in
Yeah,
that sense.
I mean,
yeah.
you would have to do something like, you know, if you really wanted to live in a habit trail, you
Yeah.
know, you could make it floor by floor,
Okay.
like 10 by 10 with a stairwell, and
And that was we were 900 square feet too,
we've
right?
always been consistent with the same definition.
And is it also a half of whatever, didn't it say half of?
50%
Of-
of, we say habitable space, the
Yeah.
state says
Okay, right. I
gross
remember
floor
that.
area.
Yeah,
So but it's like you get to a certain, it only hurts somebody with a small house.
right.
Once you get to 1,800 square feet, you're capped at 900 square feet, unless you ask the zoning board to make a bigger.
Okay,
And they've already
this is where I'm struggling
Yeah.
again. So you
in
can
a couple
still
cases.
ask the zoning board for relief in this white square, in this white rectangle,
Yep,
according
but
to,
in this case, the only thing, well, and once you ask them, then all of the other standards apply. They're no longer getting permitted under the state, they're getting permitted under the zoning board. The whole purpose of the state is they never should see the zoning board because it's a by right use.
I
They
get
should
that.
just go to the building inspector.
Yep,
Anytime they go, ooh, I just need, now you're under our ordinance. And you're above the height, you know, potentially above the height limitation. But then now you have to provide a parking spot, you have to have owner occupancy. You have to follow the design requirements. and all that
That's the
stuff.
clearest.
Unless the ZBA elected to grant a variance under the state regulations.
They,
I don't think it would be them, would it? 'Cause
so
if
the
you're
building
getting a-
inspector, so this is a weird one. So he's following a code of Massachusetts regulations. If you want a variance from that,
It's a variance. from
well,
the
I
state.
guess technically. They could, nobody would want to do this though. But if they had that blue square and they slip, you know, there's. You know, the mighty beech tree in the backyard that they don't want to impact the roots, and they're gonna move it over and they're gonna go 5 feet into the setback. And they say. So that's where they're like, hey, the state's telling me I can do all these things. But I need a variance. We don't have an ordinance in place for that. So it's a really
We have no
weird thing
ordinance
because,
in place for the
because it's-
ZBA to act. I see what you're
right,
saying.
so they would, Rob would say, I think Rob would say. Well, you're an ADU. You gotta, you gotta go get relief, from our ordinance. They don't have, so the state's very dichotomous. You either do it or you're out. You can't do it. But they do have a lot of, we'll get to
So
some other
can you,
things too.
can you apply to the state for a variance from the, building
You
regulations?
probably could. You probably could go for, directly for, a variance from the code.
Right.
Which would be. Yeah. So here's us. If I follow those same setback requirements, I'm limited to 24 feet.
Mhm,
So that's,
mhm.
one of the push pulls and problems. Here's where we're really friendly.
Mhm.
we allow somebody to go into the accessory setbacks. So that line for accessory use, and notice that it doesn't change in the front because we're not supposed to be allowed to have a accessory structure closer than the building. So it's actually even more conservative than that line. It has to follow the building line of that house. But limited to 20 feet, but now you have all this additional where historically there may have been a garage in the back corner where there, you had a driveway. I probably should have put it on the other side. So the car could have gone past the house. But once you go in outside of that setback line, the blue line, you have to provide space, owner occupancy, design requirements,
Mhm.
all the things. We also are much more forgiving because we let you, so that would also be by right under our ordinance, if you
Mhm.
meet all the dimensions. We go further to say, if you need additional height, you need additional square footage, you need to go into the setback, you can file for a special.
Mhm.
So we have already provided, really the only thing that, I mean, those requirements that we have, the state's big thing is the height, which is probably. So,
The point seems to be that we really don't need to do anything. If somebody's gonna come in and
We
do
do.
it,
We
just
do.
say they do it. If they need any sort of relief, they go to the ZBA and the ZBA says, here's the special permit process under our ordinance.
You have to.
So.
But
what's the
what-
mo-
yeah, it
what's
just comes
happening
down
is-
to is you have the same use.
Right.
Somebody uses the state. They have limited requirements. Somebody uses our local ordinance and we have all these other things. And that's fine to
what-
do.
What's happening at the ZBA level is this lower 24-foot square. They are saying, oh, but the state lets me go 30 feet. Why don't you let me go 30 feet?
Right.
Like the ZBA doesn't want that crap. So I think the best path forward isn't to leave it the way it is, but it's to redo our ordinance that just says, this is your as of right situation. And this is your, this is what we let you do on, in the red border. And,
So there's no relief.
and no, yeah, that
would
you're
be-
as of, there's no relief for the as of right business. No, there is. You can get a special permit in there if you want to do it differently.
Right.
And then you can do, according to our ordinance, some more as of right stuff in the red border.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. There's no reason to change our ordinance if we already have that process.
But it's still, it's confusing the way it's written.
Trying to think if that was my last slide. It's my last slide. So there's a whole nother thing that we haven't really talked about, which is, and I would, we'll probably need to have Stan here for that part of the discussion. Under the state, you can also put a ADU in a structure.
Right.
By right,
An existing,
yes. You can also put one on an existing non-conforming lot.
It doesn't say anything about lots.
It says lot or structure.
I
And I think- and I
reread
think
that and
what it comes
reread it.
down to is though, you still, it's sort of back to the principle of the cube. Even if this lot were 15,000 square feet, short by 5,000, it's an R20 district. But I could cite that ADU within the setback requirements. They're kind of saying no harm, no foul.
This just says protected ADUs shall be permitted within or on a lot with a pre-existing non-conforming structure. It doesn't say anything about lots. It really doesn't.
Well, if that's the case, then it's really just about structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll leave that, we'll park that one for now.
Okay,
But, this is, there one of the things.
yeah, it says, don't prevent an ADU that is non-conforming to zoning. Qualifying as a protected use ADU if it otherwise meets the definition. This is not. Yeah, allow protected ADUs by right within or on lots with a pre-existing non-conforming structure.
So it's the structure,
It's the structure.
just the structure.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, good. That's
Yeah,
one less
right?
headache.
Yeah,
Um,
Do we know anything about the?
the other
expenses?
thing, this, oh, sorry, the state allows two. More than one ADU,
um. I
or
think they say
offers you the option.
the option, you could
You
allow
can-
a special
you could
permit to
allow.
allow for a second. So that's
Right.
the other thing that we have to be. I think if we have an ordinance that says, and I don't think the current ordinance says, or maybe it does, be a limitation on that, you may only have one ADU.
It says more than one ADU on a lot in a single family residential zoning district in which protected ADU is already located shall require a special permit from the special permit granting authority. The additional ADU can be classified as a local ADU.
Yes. So we have a weird situation, like what happens if you, locally, we already permitted an ADU? And now somebody comes in for a protected ADU. So we have a clause in our existing ordinance that says ADUs shall not be eligible for use variances or for zoning dimensional relief by variance or by special permit for the purpose of allowing more than one ADU on a lot.
That's in ours.
That's in ours, but it'd be an interesting case where we've already issued one. And then they go to Rob and they say, I need it. Give me my permit. So again, would have been nice to have a little bit more input in this process. Because there was a lot of comment on the CMR when they did. It's kind of created through the same sort of emergency provisions
Mhm.
very quickly. They passed the law and then they said they would have a draft of CMR. I think it came out around the February timeframe, very limited and tons of feedback. Like, what is this whole transit business? We have an ordinance that has all these requirements. There's a whole bunch of definitions in the model bylaw or ordinance that conflict with some of the stuff, with the definitions we already use, so that creates an issue. So there's a lot of things. So that's why there's no really great answer for this. But I will show you just with a quick. You want to take 5 minutes?
Answer.
Okay,
Yeah, sure. Well,
all right, let's pause we'll come back at 4 o'clock.
okay, we are going to pause the recording and we will reconvene at 4 o'clock.
Oh, pause. Okay.
back. So just a quick look at what how does not apply. Based on what we have on the books, what it would look like. I mean, it goes down to you can't have purposes that are counter to what the state says the purpose is. I think we're okay in that respect. But everything in red are things that we would have to delete. So we have our owner occupancy requirement from 524(3)A. Off-street parking and C should have to go away. A design requirement related to screening that we have in our ordinance goes away.
Why wouldn't B go away?
B.
Yeah.
You can,
You can't do short-term rentals
you
in
can't do
state
short-term
law.
rental. So that's the one thing that they held on to. I thought they were actually, when I first read this, when it first came out, I thought they were saying that you couldn't.
That's what I thought.
I'm like, what is the point of everything that we're trying to do here in terms of creating year-round housing? And you're saying, yeah, rent it for the day. So we would have to be dealing with something, well, you can restrict so that it can't be condoized. So that's something that, state is silent on that. So we would definitely continue that so that it's not a standalone, it's creating rental stock.
We separated misspelled.
Where? So,
I can't spell it anyway.
No,
that's.
no, it's just passive voice.
Okay, okay.
State Building Code in Title V, that's the same. But then any and all other provisions of health, building, zoning, and other local laws and regulations, that's another one that we would have to look at, because I don't think we can be more stringent from a wastewater perspective. And I kind of, we put this in there in the event that we were gonna see how it operates and maybe
We
there was
worked
something.
so hard on that.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
no reason to keep that in there.
Bye-bye. Well, what if the attached ADU went into the accessory dwelling, no, accessory setback?
What about it?
What if an attached ADU went into the accessory setback?
An attached ADU?
Yeah.
So an extension of the building into,
Or is that not a thing we would do? Cause it beats the principal building essentially.
that would be,
Cause you have an attached garage, for example, like,
yeah,
doesn't that get a different setback?
an attached garage?
Yeah.
If it's attached to the house, then it's all part of the same structure.
It's
It would
the
be-
principal setback?
It would be the principal setback.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah. So we would have to change, right now, we talked about, in any district which single-family dwellings are allowed, that's the phrase, and, because the old language was, it can only be accessory to a single-family home, so, or a single-family dwelling, so that would have to be tweaked. Strike that.
Yeah, it's
Standard.
design stuff.
Oh, yeah, basically anything that dealt with design. Again, we'd have to switch to gross floor area. They refer to principal dwelling because it could be on any lot in a district that requires, allows single family, doesn't matter what the use is on the property. There's already been a permit for an ADU on a multifamily lot. Do that. Again, all design stuff goes away. Standard for detached, we're back to gross floor area. Architectural in keeping, gone.
How would the state deal with the situation? Say, there's a existing 3-family condo. Right, so theoretically, you could add to ADU, but which of the condo owners has the authority to actually do it?
That's up to the association has to figure that out. I mean, if they could only have one.
Right.
Protected. But it would be a question of if the associate, they would probably have to come up with their own agreement that, hey, if we do this, we're all gonna get, $500 a month in rent. Want to go forward with it, if they could do it. Yeah, so they're kind of, they're more in the business of saying, we're not gonna put any restrictions on it. People can figure it out, they can figure it out. Right. Yeah. So this is how I was starting to think about, to try to address the issue of bringing the both types into one ordinance. So detached ADU shall meet the height setback requirements of the principal use and the setback requirements for an accessory use if the height of the detached ADU is limited to 20 feet. So pretty much, we can't limit the height inside the cube, inside the box of the principal setback. So give up on the 24 feet.
Right.
It's gonna be whatever it is, 30 feet
Yeah.
or whatever it is,
A
900
cube.
square feet. It may never get there anyway. But if you wanted to, you could say you can follow the accessory setbacks if you're limited to 20. So that would be basically C saying, first one is the protected ADU? And again, this is a whole question with Suzanne of like, how much do we want to use the vernacular or not? Like, do we call it local? Do we call it state? Do we call it?
Yeah, I honestly think we take this state ADU and say there are 2 paths to ADUs. Here's your state requirements, your as of right and everything. And if you want to do anything else inside the principal setbacks, so you can have no, you can't do that, right? Never mind. Anyway, and then you say, here's what you can do as of right in the accessory setbacks with our design standards and our separate heights.
Couldn't you just say, to keep things simple, add a section to our existing AD ordinance that calls out the
provision for the
references to
ADU.
state guidelines.
Yeah.
So your first option is to do it this way. But no variances or special permits will be permitted if you choose that path. And next on the list starts our existing
Yeah.
ADU ordinance. And we just keep basically everything the same.
Yeah, but we're not allowed to have,
We can add a
no,
second one.
we aren't allowed to have, for example, we aren't allowed to require owner occupied.
Right.
I know.
So
But
he's
not
saying,
under-
I mean, that the
not under the
alternative is,
state.
we could have a ordinance titled local accessory dwelling units. And we leave everything that's just in place.
Right.
We can have a 525.5 that says protected ADU.
That's
And
what I'm
it
saying.
just lists what you have to do to comply with the state requirements. It doesn't talk about any of this other stuff. It's just a matter of, we'll get. I mean, I don't know who's gonna use what. We don't know where people are gonna want to situate, what they're gonna want to use. If anybody wants to use an existing structure and convert it, they're probably gonna be in our local. So maybe it's 25/75. You got 25 state ones that have no requirements and they have to follow the principal setbacks. That's the end of the day. And then we do our regular permitting under.
So if they want any relief from the state, they have to switch to ours.
They're just a local, and the board has to be, kind of, if, depends how lenient they want to be, or how facilitating they want to be, they could say. If you're here, I don't want to hear anything about what the state requirements are.
Right.
These are our requirements you have to follow.
Are we
And so,
allowed though in that, to Jane's point, to do things like occupancy.
Yes, all those things are
Yeah,
allowed.
those-
Under the
everything
local,
that
we
we've
can have
got.
our own requirements.
Okay, so you've got two paths.
Yep,
As long as the
Path
state
A.
path is available to you.
yes,
You have the state path. If you seek any relief, there's no relief in the state.
it's basically what we're doing right now without having any language in our ordinance that says that the state option is there for you. So that's where like the whole initial conversation was,
Okay.
you don't have to do anything. If somebody wants to go and look up the CMR and work with their architect and say, I think we can do all these things, schedule a meeting with the building commissioner, it looks like it works. That's it. There's no involvement with the zoning board at all.
Right.
They come in and they go, they hire a land surveyor, they get their lot surveyed, they hire an architect. They get, there's no way you're gonna be able to fit there. We're gonna have to be in the side over here. They look at this ordinance.
But doesn't our ordinance have to at least cite the state?
It doesn't have to. We don't have to have a,
But should it?
Yes,
I would think
it should.
Yeah.
It should.
minimally.
yeah.
Yes.
Say-
But it sounds
So
like
you've got
it
two
could be,
paths.
it could be almost anecdotal or footnote, in this to say, here's all the permitting, or, again, like it's either that it's the, you meet the setbacks, this is your path. You want to do anything else, this is your path. Or it's a separate ordinance that just talks about protected ADU, and that might be even a cleaner way to do it.
But didn't you say one of the reasons why the ZBA wouldn't be in a position to grant relief to somebody coming in building state codes is because we don't have an actual ordinance that mirrors the state code that they can seek relief from.
Yeah, I
So
think,
if we just reference the state law, the state code, then, and say there's no option for relief under that.
Yeah.
And then here's our local
Yeah.
ADU ordinance. And leave that as is.
Yeah.
It seems like trying to integrate them is. a lot
I mean,
more
because it's
work.
kind of like,
I
you
agree.
wouldn't, you wouldn't
Right.
want to be allowing, giving some relief to somebody that doesn't quite meet the state requirements, to then be relieved of all the other stuff.
Right. So that's what I'm saying.
Yes, so it's, you could do this,
But that's
there are
it.
no variances,
Right, there are no
and then
variances.
otherwise follow. our
Yeah,
ordinance.
and just acknowledge, state code, whatever it is.
Yeah,
Well, we can adopt the state language too. I mean, wouldn't it make it easier for everybody, including the building inspector, if it was all written out in our ordinance? So,
the whole thing,
well, it's only 2 pages, really. Well, it's got definitions which work for the whole thing.
But then doesn't, to your point, doesn't that open up the path? If we adopt it as an ordinance for somebody to go to the.
as soon as it's an
ZBA.
ordinance, they can then ask for relief from it.
Oh, as soon as it's a Gloucester ordinance.
Yeah.
see.
I mean, so we have the one provision in, we have the one provision in here that says you cannot ask for relief that will result in a second.
Right,
I'd have to check with Suzanne if we have that ability to say, or it's just the acknowledgement, once you put it in there. Or don't give any variances under
Right.
this. That's the state path. You should never see it. If they're ever in front of you, don't give them a variance for it.
That's
Right,
what
I think it's a-
to get the ZBA.
Yeah.
As a policy decision, I think it would be easier not to adopt it as an ordinance. And just to acknowledge that because we don't have an ordinance that stipulates what the state requirements are, there's no path to get relief from the zoning board
Right.
at all. But if we.
So you're back to do nothing.
Well, I think to James' point, you acknowledge it, because you don't want to ignore it, right? You
Well, I
want-
mean, we may be able to do that just through the website. Have reference to, state permitted protected ADU ordinance, ADUs, local ADU, and just provide, kind of guidance documents like that, rather than putting it
In the
into an
ordinance.
ordinance.
I'd still like to put our ordinance using, I can't think of a good vocabulary word, but like adopt some of the definitions and terms. So that, because the state one I mean, you could say, you know. I don't know, but just like this term protected use ADU, we could put that in our local ordinance. Protected use ADUs are created under state.
Yeah, I mean, you could, that's what I'm
NGL.
saying, that footnote part would
Yeah.
say the following shall
And
not
then-
apply to
Right,
protected use.
And we
you know,
define
make a reference to the
protected
CMR,
and local.
and just, that's where that goes.
Yeah,
See the building commissioner.
right. Um. And one thing we didn't address was historic district. But yeah, those are the two new terms, protected use ADU and, um.
Well, and couldn't we rename our ordinance local ADU?
I mean, it is in our local ordinance, so,
Right.
you know, for anybody that's here, that's interested in doing it, they would know that part, as long as there's distinction of, protected.
Protected ADU, yeah.
I do think that it's important for people who want to do this, that they understand from the outset that you've got two paths. You can do this, there's no relief if you want something more. You go to our ordinance.
Yeah,
And there's no relief, it needs to be in our ordinance, right? So wouldn't you say, in our ordinance, this is what a protected use ADU is, it's the state law version from which there are no variances
well, I think,
from Gloucester.
yeah,
From the
there
city
may
of
be,
Gloucester.
there may be two ways of doing that, by saying the following, you know, the following are the requirements for a local ADU. If you're, you know, kind of like making reference, if you're pursuing permit, please
Mhm.
see blah, 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 and then it's silent on that. Because it just doesn't even give them the ability to come in
I see,
to the zoning
so
board.
you just say to the
So I'll
ZBA,
talk
be
to Suzanne
aware.
about that,
and
like, how do we, because again, like, as you saw the red line, if we try to meld the two.
No, we're not, we don't
No,
need to
It
meld the
just,
two.
it doesn't work because
Right.
we're either taking away what we want to be able to have.
Right.
So but it does come down to that, we're gonna hold, you know, the same use to different standards.
But that's what the state is telling us to do.
Yeah.
The state is literally saying,
I mean, they probably would prefer to do what, you know, they would probably prefer to have us have a little bit more parity with their standards, and then if you want to be more flexible, go ahead. But, you know, that's just, I think that's a challenge. I mean, based on everything that went into that and the rationale for why those different standards are in there, to then just have to throw them out.
But this meets the state's requirement, if we do it the way that we're discussing, right? Say, do it, you can do it.
Yep.
By what the state.
Yep.
Says.
Yeah, it's
If you want
really,
relief, you have to do it under our.
but it would be probably helpful to get a little bit of a take on some of them they've already processed, or they
Yeah.
processed, if they see any operational changes that they'd like to see. I mean, you can tell that we already went through that consideration of, we have a higher height allowance if you're following, we already do it, you know, and 24 feet, I mean, that's kind of like, you know,
yeah,
gives the allowance of a 10-foot garage and then a second story.
Mhm.
And if it's in the principal setbacks, you can have more height. So there is some of that distance resolves some of those
this
issues.
literally says municipalities might already have zoning bylaws or ordinances that apply to existing ADUs or ADUs that fall outside the parameters of the statute and regulations. In effect, municipalities may have zoning rules for protected use ADUs and other types of ADUs that are locally defined by that city or town. These local ADUs are optional and apply to all other ADUs that aren't protected use ADUs. They have rules that are specific to that town or city. These local ADUs may be allowed in addition to protected use ADUs at the discretion of the city or town.
Right.
And there you go.
Yep.
Should a municipality also permit local ADUs in addition to protected ADUs, they may need to include language throughout to regulate these additional units, right? Model zoning, yeah,
That's saying if you
Yeah.
adopt that model and
Right.
you want to be more flexible like we are,
right,
we're saying, keep your model.
yeah.
It's in effect whether we adopt it or not.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And then the problem that the ZBA is having, which is the guy that comes in and says, I'm just 1 foot over into the accessory setback. And the state lets me have 30 feet, so why can't I have 30 feet right here? We just have to empower the ZBA to say, that's not what we're doing.
Coming under the local.
Yeah,
ordinance.
coming up to-
They're already empowered to do that. Just say no.
Yeah, but they're finding it hard, I guess. I don't know. They're,
Yeah, I mean, they could, or they could say, yeah, we'll let you do that. Keep it to 20 feet.
Right.
You're already into the accessory setback, so that's, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I don't know exactly what, that's the
As you can
example they
imagine,
gave me, but
we've vacillated a little here
Yeah.
of like what the option is, and just imagine when somebody has a very nice PowerPoint presentation
you know,
and, you know, this is my future son-in-law's daughter, my daughter, and they would love to live in this, and, you
It's
know,
only 1 foot.
we actually put a small weather vane and cupola on it. It's gonna be 31 feet, and we really, you know, and
That's why I think it would be cleanest to actually reference the state code someplace and say, here's the path, not getting the details, but
Yeah.
here's your path, see the state code.
Yeah.
And big asterisk, no zoning relief will be allowed under the applications, the state code.
We gotta get the ZBA to buy into that.
well, it's entirely up to them, right? I mean, if they're,
if we say in the ordinance, no, they're.
well, true. If we have the ability to, if you can lock it down like that. So that's why
But that's to your point again, that if we don't adopt the state regulation, the state law as an ordinance, the ZBA has no,
right. They should only be able to go to the building commissioner, and when the building commissioner says no,
right,
they should just say, we're upholding his decision.
Right.
You don't comply. No.
do we need to actually note that in our ordinance or on the website, something like
Yeah, I
that?
know. So that's, if this is the approach, then I'll work with
Or
Suzanne. to
maybe
kind of-
it's a situation, you put that, on the ZBA's website.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The building commissioners, were under the building permit itself, under that permitting page, we could basically have the CMR.
Yeah.
You click on the CMR or you click on 524.
Right.
Somebody says, what's the difference? Go read and come back.
Yeah.
Yes, but it doesn't require an ordinance change. It saved us another couple of meetings.
It did. I still would like to rename the ordinance and,
Do you want to make a zoning change?
Well, it's just rename it, it's just changing the title.
Yeah.
Well, but I think, so here's the other step that that I think is important, is if we do have a member or two to come in, let's talk about how it's operating.
yeah,
And it may be that, aside from the name change, maybe there's some other things in there that are working or not working that,
true.
you know.
And you throw in a definition that says protected ADUs, and then you say, these are ADUs that are pursued under the state law.
Yeah.
Local ADUs, this is a.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
Under this ordinance.
Yep.
Nobody will blink. Really,
Be interesting to hear from. see.
my spidey senses say that's not.
No, I mean, it's happening, it's allowed.
Yeah.
We're trying to,
Trying to make it
without
clearer for the
throwing
public.
out.
Right.
I gotta think about my analogies.
Okay, yeah.
Without, without throwing out the ordinance.
Without throwing out anything.
Without throwing out the ordinance, because, again, if their experience is it's working, and and we know that they're getting permitted, they're, you know, but we should have some sort of acknowledgement of this, so that, and have this discussion too with the
And would it
board.
be recorded someplace? You know, with regard to building permits, that it's a state. It complies with the state or.
So we are just now starting to there's a reporting requirement.
Right.
And I think part of that is houses. So I think Rob even just got a recent request for what's happened in the last 6 months. Since it's been in effect, how many have been permitted? And I think the state specifically wants to know how many state ADUs are permitted.
Yeah,
So,
good.
yeah.
Big data.
And our permitting system now does include an ADU notation.
Yes, so it
And will
used to be
state-
that
be
it was.
State ADU or local ADU?
That'll be a question that I'll ask Rob about that. How he's gonna process those, because at least it used to be. I live on it's a single family home. It's an accessory use to a single family home, so you gotta like go back, try to figure out, okay, let's look at all the accessory use permits, which includes sheds, pools, all the things.
Yeah.
And then tease them back out. So we'll be able to now at least, again, I think this is dozens, it's not hundreds, but we'll be able to haul them out. And I don't know if they go retroactively and go back and then be able to tag the ones that have already.
But I think to your point earlier, if you did have that on the permit application website, there are two choices.
Yeah.
Then automatically, if you choose the state, it automatically notifies you that you're building into the state regulation. And there's no opportunity for any zoning relief. So that would prohibit somebody starting the process and then coming to the ZBA and saying,
I want some.
I want this.
Yeah.
And I want relief.
Except if they're getting a permit under the state zoning, don't they still have to get a Gloucester permit? I mean, they're getting
They have to get a
Gloucester
building
building
Building.
permit,
Yeah,
so. Right. So is there a form or something that they fill out that says, that's similar to,
they have to, I mean, they basically enter all the information on the property.
yeah,
They have to upload a site plan. They have to, Rob will then have to, if they, anybody, doesn't matter either way, because we do have a by right process for
Right.
ADUs.
right,
So he has to sit down, review the plan, and say, okay, what are they meeting? Okay, they're meeting this setback, what's the height? And if it starts to fall in line with those boxes, then he issues the permit. But I guess maybe in the issuance, there's gonna be somewhere that there's gonna have to be an annotation.
yeah,
Permitted under
this-
714.
yeah,
CMR 714,
Right.
whatever. And then otherwise, he either has to say, yeah, you can do it, or actually you can't. File a special permit. They go through that whole process, then they refile the application to ADU and they upload special permit to the application.
is it just Rob who does this?
There's 3 inspectors. There will be 3 inspectors there. Vacancy is being filled.
That's hard,
A lot of permits.
yeah. A lot to keep straight,
Yeah, I mean, for anything more, I mean, even with,
every time we make a change, they have to learn it,
learn it. They very often, if you're doing something small. Pretty straightforward. Anything with new construction is usually accompanied by it has a zoning table associated with it, on the plan. Go, and because of what we know about all the relief that's requested, there's typically some form of a decision that's going with it that says that it complies with zoning ordinance after it's been reviewed by a more public process.
Mm.
But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of permits.
Okay, so for the next meeting, which will be, yeah, but also prior to a regular planning board meeting.
Yes.
Should we invite Michael Nyman and Joe Parisi to join us?
I think what I would have Suzanne do is have her reach out to Joe. Parisi.
Okay.
And then I don't know who, we're at 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm not sure.
Right, oh yeah,
But
Joe.
a
probably
member
won't be
or
available.
two, yeah.
Okay,
that would be good, just to kind of rehash, and also I'll get some feedback from Suzanne on what does that option look like in terms of reference? And the question of should you or can you have language that says shall not? I mean, it seems like the state's kind of saying that you're either a yes or a no.
Mhm.
But that we probably not, the recommendation would not be a wholesale adoption of model or, kind of stripping standards of ours helped to accommodate both.
Mhm.
That we do want to permit as much as we can under our local ordinance with the controls that are in place.
Right.
And if somebody
Wants to do the state.
wants to do the state route and has the option to do it,
Yeah.
they can, but it's not our
But
preference.
let's just update ours and make it clear. Okay. We knocked off the VDOD. We knocked off the inclusionary. Still working on the OSRD cluster. What's next? We're waiting for,
I'm still
to do
working
something?
on,
Okay.
so we did say that we were gonna push overall potential zoning district changes for not front burner, but what I would do is the presentation that I showed you that was just like, here's everything.
Right.
Break it down more by district, and then also strip out city-owned property and conservation property, so you can really get a sense of a more refined number of the amount of non-conformity in each of those districts.
I still think we should do a quick look at residential setback requirements in the CCD. Because it's nonsensical to have them when you have mostly pre-existing buildings already.
Yeah.
So if somebody's converting it to an existing building, they don't have the option of having setbacks. You wouldn't really want those setbacks from the street anyway. And it just complicates the permitting process to force anyone doing a residential project to seek relief from the ZBA for dimensional requirements which are nonsensical to begin with.
Mhm.
And it doesn't seem like that would be that big a push to basically propose altering those dimension table and make the presentation to the city council that the reason we're recommending this is because they don't make sense and it causes controversy and appeals potential for any project that is being built in those downtown districts where we wouldn't want setbacks in the first place.
So if it's just dimensional, I think that makes sense to have that. Do we want to fit that in?
well,
Well, actually, why not add that to the discussion next week if we can get the zoning board here?
oh
'Cause
yeah, that's a great
they're
idea.
the ones that do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
they've seen
Yeah,
a few projects, they've seen comprehensive permits.
yeah,
Right.
Which, and that's the ultimate in terms of asking for all those same things.
Right, it's gonna come up again.
Yeah.
With the comprehensive permit for the new project on Main Street,
Right. 56 Main, 256.
where again, you wouldn't wanna see a 20-foot project.
yeah. So were you there when I was describing my conversation with them,
Yes,
Sean?
yes.
Were you there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think you're asking me.
Yep, no, I know you were
You were
there.
looking at your page?
Um,
I believe I was online. Zoomed in. when we were
Yeah.
on their meeting.
anyway, their main topics were ADU, inclusionary, floodplain. No garage in the front yard, which is something they never deny, other words, but closer to the street than the principal dwelling. Two-family with exterior changes. And setback and height. Some thoughts about the relationship between setbacks and height. In terms of shadowing. That's most of what they.
That's the other one
Oh,
that's
and
that's
shed.
another setback. That as you increase the height above the requirement for every 1 foot, you have to increase the setback by
Setback.
a half a foot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we can,
Yeah.
so it's the same
but that
thing.
would be good, that would be good to get their perspective
They said
on
fix
that.
the lot area in the denser areas. You know, like. R20, where a lot of it is. A lot less than put.
Yeah.
20,000 square feet. And then, add 10,000 square feet lot coverage to the setback chart. I don't know why I wrote that. And then sheds should be allowed by right up to the setbacks. Anyway, but we can,
Up to the setback.
in the corners,
Oh, was it to the property line or to the? I think it may have been more the property line.
Yeah, because they'd already be.
At the
allowed.
property
That's-
line.
That's
And the setback.
that's where they all are.
Yeah.
That's where
Yes.
they used to
And
be.
he said they're
before.
all there, so
Yeah.
why, and that's where
Yeah.
they belong, why would I say no?
Yeah. Well, let's, if that makes sense, maybe we can talk about.
Yeah.
ADU and some of those issues with them, next Thursday.
Okay,
And then by September, I think we can get back to, oh, sorry.
okay, I would love to get the OSRD in front of the city council. Than it currently exists. So, right? That's one of the harder ones,
I think that's harder. Yeah.
oh, probably the hardest of what we're talking about.
Yep.
So, that will need some time.
Did the tree survey get initiated?
That's grant funded. We have not heard yet,
Not heard what?
on any of the grants. So I mean, we applied for
No.
like 7 grants this past spring and they usually get announced by September timeframe,
Okay,
contracting by the end of the year, use it by next July 1. So there's a bunch.
trees won't be hard though, I mean. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Everyone will like us. For that.
Unless we make it more difficult for people to take trees down on their.
Okay. Does that sound
Okay.
like a good plan?
Sounds like a good plan.
Okay. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Will you guys be here both next time?
I will be gone. For 1 or 2 meetings, late September, early October.